Hello and welcome to another episode of the TF Cast.
Today with us, we have Tim King. He works with Dirty Laundry Studios, co-founder of Dirty Laundry Studios and a drummer in Wick. Introduce yourself and talk about the project a little bit. Let people know what's going on over at Dirty Laundry.
So Dirty Laundry is at its core a group of kind of DIY enthusiasts who wanted to take everything that we have acquired through playing in bands and just being involved in the music community over the years and make it available to bands that we kind of believe in, bands that we see something in, just to help alleviate some of the pressure off of them and help them focus more on writing and performing and getting to where they would like to be.
So in that focus is a big part of that, making the equipment available. Do you have some spaces for
so that's a whole list of things actually. So I have a studio, a live rooms, and then I'm pretty familiar with mixing, mastering, engineering. So that's recordings for bands there. We have a print shop, a screen print shop. So that's merchandising,
cool.
T-shirts, hats, hoodies, that kind of thing. My co-pilot in this is a professional graphic designer. He owns Shred Design Company. Just a shout out for him. His name's Trevor. So he's excellent with album artwork, promotional materials, social media management. He's all over that. Then we have a little, laundry list, no pun intended, a list of kind of social media outlets, radio shows, podcasters, bloggers, people that we can get a hold of to help promote things there. I've got a list of playlisters, like people who make Spotify playlists that I send things out to. God, I know I've got to be missing something. We've got ties in with concert photographers, music video producers, and we just kind of keep acquiring people who share this DIY ethos and are interested in helping in the things that we can't find to, I don't want to say outsource, but the things that we can't find to give these artists, we kind of devote ourselves to learning on our own so we can offer that. For example, I had no idea how to screen print until a few months ago, and now my bedroom doubles as a print shop. So
And what's the vision? You have all these resources, but making them available. What does that do for the long term?
So what we want to do is take these bands who look like our focus is more or less newer artists. Obviously, there's some exceptions here and there, but bands that seem to I'm just tripping over my words. I'm sorry. Bands that seem like they could use a little bit of assistance, kind of having. I know it's such an easy question to answer, but it's like there's so many words I'm trying to spit out at once that they're all just coming out as a lot and ahs. Ultimately, we're just trying to help them get their music to you in the most simple terms. We're trying to help them get the songs that they're writing out of their garage or their bedroom or basement, whatever, and get them to you, the general public, anyone who's out there.
Before our conversation started officially, you mentioned that it was like a way for you to connect new artists with the resources you wish you had when you were starting out, kind of thing.
Absolutely. That was kind of the initial conversation was between myself and Trevor, and we were in the studio. He was throwing around album art ideas. We were putting together a music video, just kind of started the conversation of, wow, imagine how much more difficult this would have been to accomplish if we couldn't just sit in my basement and do it on a Saturday, if we didn't know how to do these things ourselves. Like, I would have absolutely loved to have had that when I was starting as a musician, playing out when I was 14, 13, 15, whatever, a kid. Just these resources, this pile of information, how much it would have helped us when we had first started bands to be able to get, decent quality recordings out right away, to have decent quality album artwork, photographs, all these things that we didn't have the money to accomplish. Those things are relatively expensive. And as a musician, you find yourself funneling your money into equipment, guitars, amplifiers, drums, microphones.
So it sounds like then it's kind of like a label. You use that term, you said? You use that term?
We call it Dirty Laundry Records. That's the website, the Instagram, everything is Dirty Laundry Records. But the term label is more or less just as close to what we're doing as possible. The way I've always viewed a record label is kind of as a bank. And you approach this bank with your idea. You say, I want to make this record. The bank says, okay, we will fund this record. Where if you were to go get a mortgage, they'd say, okay, and you owe us X amount for all the money we borrowed you. A label will say, okay, but we own X amount of this music or this merchandising. And we said, okay, what if we could take out that idea of you owe us something and eliminate the need for interest on these things by just, kind of seizing the means of production, I guess, not to throw hot terms out or anything, but that's ultimately what we did. Is what if we took out all the middlemen and just figured out a way to do this ourselves, so we didn't owe anybody too much of anything, so we could just pump this stuff out. That's
cool. I've thought a lot about that. A lot of what you've got going on there is a little bit related to some of the stuff that some of the reasons Triple Falls was founded, and it really seems like there's a focus on using the new technology available today, like these things that wouldn't have been possible before. We're able to kind of just get scale that would otherwise be challenging, and then there are still a lot of newer artists who don't have even access to some of that equipment. So helping them out with, like you're saying, merch and producing content for them. That's really cool.
That is.
And it hypes everyone up too when you're joining it together.
Hopefully, right?
That's the way. Yeah.
I mean, I am a strong believer in the community when it comes to music. Like, you could be an extremely talented band, but if you kind of exist on your own, you can get out there and find yourself. But if you have a community of other groups around you, like you can be uplifted through the scene, and other people, they want to get on that stage with you and do that thing. And I think that's what makes strong music cultures in areas, and you see that happen, especially in Mankato. There's been groups, like you see the really tight knit hip hop guys, and a lot of their forward momentum is not just talent, which they're certainly abundant in, but it's that they show up for every one of each other's things, and they bring people. That it's just endlessly important. So it's awesome to see other people doing something just like that.
Growing up in Mankato, because I came here when I was 12, 13, 11, I don't know, like 7th, 8th grade. But I claim it as my hometown. So growing up here, you always hear about that late 80s, early 90s Mankato, this crazy music scene that was here, as I'm sure you have certainly heard about. I think we've all heard about it enough times. And obviously I wasn't alive to experience it yet, let alone even in town. But I've had that conversation with so many people of what can we do to get even close to that? To get just stick an adrenaline shot in the music scene.
I think for a lot of the things, when you talk about that, there was a big tour, like bands back then, they would tour. Like a relatively new band would just pick up and tour, and that was a regular thing to do. And now I think so much of that has moved to digital. And some of the stuff you were talking about earlier that you're looking to assist people with, it's like, oh, you have a band? Well, do you have Facebook, Instagram, TikTok? And it's like, I mean, we've heard the same thing just last week from Colin. He's like, well, I started a side project. Do I start 8 social medias right now for that one too? So it is a daunting amount of things that are just kind of, expected. And, the more community, the better, because people need those things.
And with the social media things too, it's, there's so many of them there. There's so many accounts. It's not only the task of getting there, it's getting there and also having someone click on it, look at you, pay attention to it. And attention spans are very short. So you kind of you have 10 seconds and make it count,
From the perspective of a label or a collaborative effort between very like a lot of different artists. I think that having some sort of central organization that cross posts things and helps with like organizing events that the others participate in too, I think that works really well, because it can connect artists in a way that they might not be able to connect themselves. I guess it kind of, yeah. And then acting as a host or something for some sort of event. I think that's a cool way of doing it.
Post-COVID, that is something I would absolutely love to be a part of.
No kidding.
Seems so far off on the horizon that it's one of those, you're always thinking about it, but it's like, if I start thinking about once everything is open and back to whatever normal is at that point, am I just going to sit and drive myself crazy, you know?
Yeah, I've got my eyes on the third quarter of this year. I think shows could be back if everything just falls in line.
Yeah, you know, every time I start to think that happens, it doesn't. So I hope it does.
Yeah, me too. Well, tell us a little bit about some of the people who you're working with on the label.
So there's 5 of us. Well, 5 acts right now, or there will be as of Monday, today, if that's when this comes out. Whenever. So first of all is Chris Koch. I'll throw him out first. He is a singer, songwriter, acoustic, kind of a folk punky type artist. He's from Mankato, and I've worked with him in the past, and I think what he does is very cool. And he was one of the first people I reached out to when we started to kind of gather bands, which was infinitely more difficult than you would actually have expected. If you're reaching out to all these bands saying, I have all these things and I just want to give it to you, the number one reaction I got is, yeah, okay, like what's in it for you? You know? So I think Chris was one of the first people who I was able to have a conversation with, who saw what we were trying to do and kind of realized that it was genuine, trusted us. We trusted him on it. So Chris is one of them. Then I kind of garage rock, grungy, reverby. I don't even know exactly. I don't want to paint them into a corner. A rock band out of Minneapolis. They're called New Confusion. They were another one of the first groups that we'd spoken to. They have a single out right now. They've got more coming down the line, kind of more on the horizons. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say on their behalf there, but there's a single called The Strip that we released for them a few weeks back. That's on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, wherever you are streaming your music, it's probably there. A 3-piece rock band, fantastic. A rapper, his name's Nigel T. I don't know if he claims Mankato. I met him in Mankato. I know he's based out of the metro area now. Kind of a Marilyn Manson rap, hip hop smush. I don't want to go
cool
painting.
Way of describing it.
It's kind of the vibe I always got from him was
right on.
Like right on. Halloween rap, or like Marilyn Manson and SoundCloud just smashed together. Then we have Wick, which is a band I am in. Wick just kind of landed on DL by default. Obviously, if I'm playing in this band, I'm not going to exclude myself from it, 'cause I'm utilizing these resources anyway. So Wick is there. That's now a 5-piece hard rock, metal, noisy band based out of Mankato. Technically, half of us live in the metro, so there's a lot of commuting that goes on with that one. We haven't been able to do a whole heck of a lot in the past few months, but and then there is the newest edition, and they're called Empires of Delirium. So Empires of Delirium is one I'm super, super excited about. They're a 2-piece hard rock, riff rock. I don't want to say metal, but like heavy rock music. Fronted by a bass player / singer. His name's John, fantastic musician that really focuses on their visual performances. So they've got these just fantastic music video ideas coming. So those are also out on the horizon. And then it's being a 2-piece, they really have to carry a lot of energy in a small package, and they do it just so well. For anyone who's familiar with like Royal Blood, I would kind of throw them in that same category. I don't know if that's how many people are listening to that.
They're bass and drums, or
Yeah, so they're singers playing bass guitar, but he runs these Pog pedals. If you're familiar, they're like effects pedals that will pitch shift, and they'll throw octaves up. So he's playing lead guitar parts and the bass guitar parts at the same time, like up and down the neck of his guitar while he's singing. And then he's got this just fantastic drummer behind him. And yeah, they have all the fullness and presentation and richness of a full 3-4 piece band, but they just cram it down into these two guys, and it is just the coolest thing to watch. So they are the newest addition.
Wow, that's sweet.
and they're the newest edition, or they're going to be releasing music soon, or you have some in the tank?
All of the above. So they've got a single called Medic that is coming out on the 1st of February. And that is their first single with us, their second single as a band. So if you were to go search them again, Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, they did release a song. They are brand new as of August. So their very first song came out under a month ago, and it's called XOXO. They've got a video for that out as well. But yeah, the first one they're doing with us is called Medic, and that is February 1st.
Nice. That's way cool. So what's the process like for an artist who might want to participate in some of your activities or
So that is
connect with you?
That's a subjective one. We kind of have a rough outline of our process on how we kind of pick who we're working with.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that comes down to, since we're doing all of this stuff pro bono, and anything that is funded more or less is coming out of our pockets or our merch sales, or, we've got t-shirts, stickers, that kind of thing. It's the number one thing is for us is, do we believe in what you're doing? Because it's really, really hard to endorse something completely if you don't think that it's worth endorsing,
Mm-hmm.
I never want to lie to the general public, and so I'm not going to. Trevor and I both, we really want to make sure that the bands that we're picking are bands that we believe in. So that's kind of the first step through there. Is we'll either reach out to a band, or we've got a submission form on our website, which is dirtylaundryrecords.com. So bands can reach out to us there, Facebook, Instagram. Our email address is all over all of those. And then we will set up, generally speaking, Zoom calls, phone interviews, something along those lines. And I'll just sit and talk to people in the same way that I'm talking to you. Just, are you a genuine person? What are you trying to accomplish? What can I do for you? What are your goals? What's your musical direction? And we'll just sit and kind of talk, and then we'll mull it over with Trevor and myself, and we've got a kind of pool of people that we trust musically, and kind of people that help us a little bit behind the scenes. And we'll just sit and if they have demos out already, we'll sit and we'll listen to those. If not, we'll sit and talk about, okay, here's what this person or these people want to accomplish. Here's what they would need from us, where we can help them, and just kind of case by case decide. So
Yeah, find good fits and stuff that way. That's cool.
Exactly. There's a ton of bands I'd love to help, but unfortunately I only have 24 hours in a day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and certainly if you're doing things for free, like the more competitive it gets, honestly, it helps everyone to want to be involved.
And we try to shy away from saying, I know I just said pro bono and I've said free and everything, but the way we kind of look at this is, we still see these bands are giving more than they're taking. We know that we've got like this pile of stuff that we're offering to them, but if I release, or we release a song with Empires of Delirium, that song does really well. That gives the next band that has a release coming through us just a little bit better of a chance of being seen. Like the more kind of momentum we can get, the better for the next project. So we're always kind of trying to look 2 or 3 steps ahead. So though it's, fiscally free, that's kind of how we look at it. It's like we're basically getting every musician's nightmare sentence, but we're basically getting paid in exposure, but we're like, we're cool with it. That's like what we're looking for. So
yeah. Well, it's playing the long game a little bit more maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't get the impression from anything that you're saying that you don't intend to be a working musician, but that you're trying to improve the circumstances by which you work and, succeed.
Exactly. I used to produce for people. Like, they'd come through the studio and I'd record them, mix them, master them, do whatever. And I was always really bad about charging for these things. And I just kind of had this problem with, I felt weird taking money for things that I genuinely enjoy doing. It just, work is work, play is play. And it always just was too fun for me to not feel uncomfortable charging people for it. And I think that was kind of like the early seed for where I'm at with this currently.
I felt that too in some circumstances. I think it happens a lot when it's a creative project, or like it feels partially like a collaboration, but that, it's important. I tell myself it's important to like value my own time and efforts. So I'm trying to work on getting better at appropriately quoting and charging for things.
It's harder than people think, man. The amount of times I've talked to other engineers or other producers, and I always feel weird calling myself a producer, because I feel like that's like the difference between a line cook and a chef is the difference between like what I do and what a producer does. But like, I try my damnedest. But the amount of times I've had conversations with people, it's like, what am I supposed to be charging? What's the right amount? Like, how do you have that conversation? Or I have friends who are photographers that are very, good at what they do. It's their business, or graphic designers. It's like, how do you charge as a creative comfortably? So that's just kind of, it's like, okay, what if instead of having this conundrum, I just choose the bands that I decide to not have that conversation with,
That seems like a good way of doing it. Maybe one thing that we've planned for, we have never said this publicly, but it is true. All of the cast music that we record, our intention is to split any possible proceeds, whether it be from like streaming or with the artist that we negotiate some sort of further distribution with, that just would be like a 50-50 split of the royalties. And because we're recording cover songs, or cover songs of their own songs, like if it were released, it is just a live version. And I wonder if something like that could work too. But I guess in your case, you're doing the full recording, so maybe it gets a little more complicated.
That, like, obviously that's a good idea, but for what we're doing, I think there's a little bit, like, we kind of have the philosophy too of, I for these bands specifically, I don't want any of what they've got coming in, because I want them to take that and put it towards, drumsticks, put fuel in their van once they're allowed to go play, like keep their stuff up and running, like maybe get themselves something cool if it gets to that point. I don't want to take anything fiscally from them, because, man, being a musician's expensive.
That's the truth.
I'm a drummer, bass player, guitar player all over the place, and trying to not only like acquire those instruments, but also like maintaining them. Drumming especially is horrible, just because everything's breakable and easy to lose, and your cat knocks it over, and it's a whole thing, So I would rather that the bands we're working with funnel what they are getting into.
That makes sense.
What they're doing.
That's cool. So what are some of the long-term visions for the record label? Like maybe long-term goals for individual artists, or as the group itself, or shows, or
shows would be fantastic. I wanted to do, when this conversation first started a year plus ago, it's like, COVID's going to be gone soon, so like let's start talking about this. And we wanted to do a festival, basically take all the bands on the roster, and then maybe bands that are kind of involved but not on the list, like people were kind of in tight with, you know what I mean? And set up this just super awesome rock show, or not necessarily just rock. We're not just dealing with rock bands, but just show. So someday, hopefully, I would love to do a mini fest. As far as the other, like the rest of the long-term goals, I just want to keep releasing good songs and get them to as many people as I possibly can. So I know that sounds like a cop-out answer, but it is genuinely
I think
the
it's
truth.
the job though,
Exactly.
and it's just like it's how you do it. So
Good place also to shout out a couple of things people could search, like Dirty Laundry Records. Would it be any other social media platforms that they should look on?
So we kind of focus our energy on Instagram. That's kind of our main one. So yeah, the website is dirtylaundryrecords.com. Then the Instagram is dirtylaundry.records, because someone beat us to it somewhere in like Arkansas in 2012 and they haven't touched it since. But dirtylaundry.records and dirtylaundryrecords.com are where, if you're trying to get in touch with us as a musician or really a creative in general, if you have any questions, comments, snide remarks, if you want to make fun of me, really anywhere, that's the way to do it, is through the website or through our Instagram. So
That's cool.
and then that's where links to all of the soon to be 5 bands will be.
Nice. So what sort of projects are you working on with these artists that you outlined? Is there anything you can share with us?
So as I said, Empires has a single coming very soon. Wick, I guess being in Wick, I can comfortably talk about that one. Wick's got just a pile of music sitting. I think we decided to break it down into like 3 releases over the course of the next however long, just because it got to the point where it was so many. And nobody listens to full records anymore. Unfortunately, I would love to send out a 20-song record, but I know that it'll get clicked on and go, nope, next. Like, I don't have time for this. So Wick's got singles, songs, record, EP, whatever, however you want to break that down. Empires has a single coming, a video coming. Nigel has music on the horizon. I don't want to speak too much on his behalf, but there is announcements coming from Nigel pretty at some point. Then New Confusion, they are always working, writing, kind of fine-tuning what they do. They really don't slow down, and they just get better with time. So
That's awesome. And will you be posting updates for the collective, the record company on the Instagram then, so people can follow along that way?
Yep. On top of posting any updates about releases, be it videos, music, whatever, our social media tries to just stay involved. So we do a lot of like interview questions with the bands that we're working with, and we'll post those here and there. We're talking about doing, I don't know if you're familiar with what rig rundowns are, but those are, just take a look at like what they've got going on equipment wise, particularly with some of these bands. They're, like Empires is kind of all over the board, making a 2-piece sound like it's not a 2-piece, or New Confusion uses just a ton of really cool, like old school equipment. I think all their gear is, I'm spitballing out here, but I'm pretty sure most of it's like 80s equipment. So it's just a cool conversation piece. So that kind of stuff is always on the Instagram. It's kind of always popping up here and there, be it posts or stories or what have you. And there's kind of behind the scenes information, like here's what we're working on. Opinion pieces, we're always trying to ask kind of what would you like to see? Just, I guess, trying to stay engaged with the general public. So Instagram is where you can get closest to us. Facebook gets a little like impersonal, I think. But so we have it. We do pay attention to it, but Instagram is where all of those kind of day-to-day occurrences will be.
Nice. I had some. Do you have any other questions?
I've exhausted my questions.
Okay.
If you want to talk about your personal influence, or like any of the music that you're working on or that you like, or things that have inspired you, I'd be totally happy to have some insight into that.
Sure. I guess kind of when I say our, I mean mine, but also Trevor's, but I'm guilty of probably claiming my inspirations as ours on this one. But
also, are you talking about Wick or Dirty Laundry when you say you and Trevor?
Trevor and I as in Dirty Laundry.
Okay.
Wick is a whole separate conversation, I guess. But there's kind of two labels that I looked at a lot when I was younger and still to this day kind of keep up with. And it's Epitaph and Discord Records, if you're familiar with either of those two. And both of those labels were started by bands kind of in the early stages. It's Fugazi out on the East Coast started Discord, and Bad Religion on the West Coast started Epitaph. And they also kind of did that from the ground up, just, driving to record stores, making a lot of phone calls. It's like, okay, well, if these two can achieve this, why can't I do something other than the fact that they're, freak businessmen and they understand something on a deeper level? But those are kind of the big inspirations for getting Dirty Laundry going. As far as Wick inspirations, that's just, we really like to be loud. We just like to make noise. We do that for the live shows. Honestly, that's kind of the reason the band started. Wick's been around for years at this point. It makes me feel old when I say that, but I think Wick started 5 years ago. And it's a group of, it started as a group of high school buddies, and we've kind of brought people in over the years. And we just listen to a lot of metal, hard rock kind of music. I'm a huge Alice in Chains fan and a huge Tool fan, so those were kind of the two that I funneled into that band early on. But that just comes down to it's fun to bash on stuff sometimes. It's like a rage room for musicians.
It is a totally different experience to just play at full volume. Creatively, for me at least, I could practice in headphones all day, but sometimes I just want to be in front of a cranked amp because it's a better experience.
Yeah, man, feel it shaking in your chest. There's no feeling like that.
That's the truth.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Well, why don't we wrap it up there? We can give you one last chance to plug some people, some handles, some social medias, websites. Where can they find you, follow you, keep up?
Again, the Dirty Laundry Instagram is going to be where you're going to be able to get a hold of us, and then the bands we're working with are always listed there. In addition to, they're all on the website. And then Shred is the graphic design company we work with, and I think he deserves a shout out because Trevor really is nonstop. For anyone who does end up on that Instagram page, it's kind of got a theme to it. We go with the black and purple, and Trevor puts just a unbelievable amount of work into helping these bands, helping the label, not to mention maintaining a career as a fantastic graphic designer. So I think he deserves a shout out as well. So.
Right on.
Awesome.
Well, thank you very much, Tim, for joining us. And we got some cool examples of the stickers he brought us.
And we're looking forward to a ton of new music. So
yeah, man, February is the month. There's all kinds of stuff in February. So
okay, well, you keep letting us know, and we'll share some stuff
sweet
on our pages and all that too. So
sweet, thank you.
Cool. We'll call it good there. Have a good one, everyone.